skip it. So, good morning. My name is Attila Marosi, and I work for Sophos. And this topic will be about where should I host my malware. So, a couple of words about the agenda. The first thing we will touch that how to collect IP address for which belongs to FTP servers. It's very easy nowadays. How to make some tests with some custom one, and how you can test the IP address if you have some additional needs for testing them. And then we will analyze the results. We will touch one malware, one threat which abused this protocol, and there will be some funny cases at the end of the presentation. So how to collect and get IP address which belongs to dedicated protocols. Nowadays it's very bubbling topic, and there are a couple of services you can use nowadays. For example, Trojan or Census. Or you can make the scanning process by your own, but I don't want it because it's expensive, type or something, and there are good services to use it. And I'm not interested on the protocol itself. I would like to do something more. So if there is someone who already did this job, I just use the results of it and do the next step and analyze the data on the servers or the IP we get. So in this research and in ordinary days, I use Census to get a good hint about the device and the IP address. So how could a process looks like that get prefiltered data from one of the services? As I mentioned, I use Census. Then do the test. In this case, I test the FTP servers to check the port 21. Is it open? And tries to log in with anonymous users. And if I could it, tries to write the disk and test that do we have write access on the disk or not, which is not very good, I think. And then we get the results and then analyze it. So how this process could looks like? Then get the IP address, check it, and fill a list. So if you don't want it in this way, you need some other tools for it. So I developed a scanner. It's called Scanner Framework, which could be fed with IP addresses. You can tag the IP address, and you can create easy and very tiny Python modules to do some test case and collect the results in a very generic way. So you can use it for put it to the map or feed other services with the results, and or maybe feed another test, so you can link the test with each other. In this screen, as you can see, that there were more than 3 million IP addresses, and finally, in this test case, there were 10 key IP addresses which passed the test. So, more about the details. So from Census, we got more than 12 million IP addresses, which belongs to FTP services. And we didn't want to test all of them, so we just get 3.5 million to test it, because this process is not so fast and didn't want to test all of them, just a big set of them. So I test 3.5 million of them. So the result was that 91% was restricted, which is very good. 9% was when you were able to log in with anonymous login credentials, and there was 0% where you have write access. How this 0 looks like in a map, that's not bad. So the zero was 10K. So there was, in this dataset, 10K IP address and devices where you have write access. So where you have the ability to copy anything there or write the things which are already there, overwrite and change the content of it, or just put something and host there. So you have 10K new IP address to host anything you would like to. I think I don't have to mention that there are so many public data, or sorry, personal data, privacy data, which also could be downloaded or hijacked in this way. So if we focus on anonymous servers, where we have the ability to log in with the anonymous credential, there were 4%, the 10K, when we have the write access. And when we have the write access, 70% has already infected with one threat, malware C. And the average of the full infection is roughly 90%. So that means that if you offer an IP with a FTP service with the ability to write for anyone, it will write, and there will be used for host for some malware stuff, or backdoors or tryings. So if you let it, they will do it. If you use this ration for the 12 million, that means that roughly 40,000 IP address could be used for this purpose, and in this way, which is a quite big number, I think. So some interesting cases. The first one is Seagate Central, which has a design flow. They provide, this is not the only one, there are many vendors who use this structure, and also Seagate has a NAS OS, which is used by other vendors as well, so you can find this in other vendors as well. So they provide the ability to create users and folders which are restricted and accessed by the users only. Sounds very secure and seems very good, but the problem, they provide and they give you a default account and the default folder called public, and if you would like to reach the device remotely, which is a very good feature to share and to access your private data, you have to turn on the remote access, and in this situation you let anyone to access the public folder and the public content of it. And if you maybe map your NAS inside your home network, you will work with the two folders, and maybe you will confuse with the data there. So there is no chance to turn it off, and many users doesn't know that they already opened the door for anyone. So in this situation, there was 300 roughly, 300 devices which were found on the internet, which was open, and that means you get a very good ability and a huge amount of storage to host your data. Which is quite good. So in Lassive, they use the same framework, they use the same package, so the problem is the same. And in here, there is also a couple of terabytes you can use for any purpose. And as we saw that it's used. So we saw malware C on many devices. It's not a very fancy stuff or something, as you will see. If you log into a Seagate Central, one of the Seagate Central, or even IP address which already infected or host a malware, you maybe see something like this. So as you can see, there is a photos folder, and there is a photo SCR, which is the malware. So if you map that device, map that folder, you maybe will confuse with the names, and as you will see, the icon also could be something confuse you. So the folder of the application is a folder. Sorry, the icon of the application is a folder. So maybe you just click on the wrong line and just start the application on your PC. It's a crypto miner application. Couple of years ago, there were many mining stuff and Bitcoin miner malware, but after a time, the bad guys realized that it's not a cost-effective, or it's not a good way to earn money, because mining cryptocurrency or mining Bitcoins, it's not so easy, so personal PC is not good for it. But the cryptocurrencies are very new stuff, and the difficulty is much less. So if you join to this group and start the mining in the right time, you can earn good money with it. So in this situation, they just create a very, very dummy application based on ANSYS scripts, and it took 3 versions of the CryptoMiner application, which is a stock one, so there were no needs to develop or something. I think it could be developed a couple of days, the whole stuff. There is no big effort on it. How it's good spread. If there is an infected machine, it's trying and scanning the internet for open FTPs, where they have the right to write and copy the application itself. So if you open your NAS or something, they just copy the application there, and maybe you will be confused when you're browsing your own NAS and accidentally start the application. Then your PC will mine the cryptocurrency and also scan the internet to seek new IP address and new devices where it could copy the instance of it. So the spreading process is very dummy. It's very simple, I think. But as you can see, it's already infected 70% of the open FTPs. The TFTP exe, that's the application which scanning the internet. And if they found web-related stuff, HTML, PHP, something like this, they just trying to infect it with putting an iframe the bottom of the file, and that causes that if you open a page which already infected, you will download a zip file, the info zip file, which needs some social engineering or very keen user to get the results and the inside content of the zip, but it seems it's also working. So that's the line when they add some iframe. So if the user is enough keen to get it, they will open it and finally execute the malware. So which makes this malware interesting for me, that usually we do not have information about the malwares, how much money they earn. We have couple of information, but not exact information, how much money was earned with a dedicated thread. But in this situation, the miner was used the Monero pool, and if you have the hash for the miner, you can get the details of the results, how much money was paid, how the hash, what is the hash rate. So it makes much interesting. So that needs the obfuscation, the ANSYS file, and this includes all the information we need. So all the hashes which needed we have. So there were 20 hashes which was used, and here you can see that the top one of the results. So we were able to track the malware and how much money they can earn with this single threat. So as you can see that 6,000 euros each day, it's not bad, and 3,000, yeah, 3,000, it's very, very good for a month. So I think this was the first time we have exact data about the malware. So it's very, very good, and based on how difficult it is, I think it's very, very good. So my favorites, there were some NASes I have already shown you, and there are some professional devices which a little bit scary, I think. One of it, the NetView stuff, it's a CCTV stuff. You can monitor big buildings or things with these professional devices. If you use Sensis and you know how to search them, you can find a couple of them, and it's a tricky query because I filtered for the FTP bundler, but least the telnet bundler. So the two protocol used, and if you check the bundlers, you can see that there are telnet bundlers which requires usernames, and there are telnet bundlers which prompt the command line. So it seems that there are two types. One of requires login credential, and one just open the device. So check the second group. Roughly 1,000 devices which totally opened and used with basic credential and basic default settings, which do not require any logins or something. And if you open it in Telnet, you can get a prompt, and you can do whatever you would like to do. So it's very, very scary, I think. You can modify the data, you can change and list anything you would like to. If you use the same IP address and login with FTP and check the device in this side, on this angle, you can get that there are already many actors and malwares which tries to put some malicious content on the device. As you can see, the malminers is already there, and which is very, very scary. The user interface folder is just the bottom of it, so you can reach the user interface, and you can reach the firmware through the FTP using with anonymous access. So if you would like to change something on the device, you would like to change the video viewer application, the applet, or you just would like to download all the camera credentials or web configurations or something, you can easily do that, because they use one folder for everything, and you can reach it by anonymous access. So in this test, we have roughly 20% of the device can be accessed, so you can get the videos as well, and you can write something there and modify the firmware if you would like to. So it's very scary. But my favorite one is, sorry, I have to change a little bit, not too easy to find the device, because it's used for SCADA purpose or to control devices. There are so many gadgets they offer. There are routers and collectors, there are sensors and many things, and it could be used by vendors to set up very fancy and practical stuff like lights could be connected with the controller, and you can control the street lights through the web. You can create scripts. This device could be controlled with Python scripts, which makes it much easy to develop and to create a very sophisticated system. So it's very, very nice. But the problem, if you do not change the basic settings, it's totally open. So you have everything so you have the ability to game with it, to track it, to collect the information from it. As you see, the middle of there is the Python part, so you can check the scripts which are already there, or as you can see, the list of the devices which are already connected and controlled by this equipment. This use a 3G network, and as you can see, we have the information about the 3G network. So the GSM stuff. So if we use the codes, we can find easily the device on a map, which is quite scary. And if you don't like the lighting stuff or something, you can check the Python part, and you can manage the script. So if you have a better one, you maybe upload it, and you can put some additional feature to the device to control it. As you can see, others already done with it and trying. Maybe Python is not the correct language for it, but sometimes they will figure out that which is the correct one. So if you search for these devices, you will find a great amount of this, and this is a very good equipment. So you just write a Python script for the purpose you would like to, and upload it, and you have a couple of hosts to do the dirty job for you. So that was my presentation. I think there were so many faults there, so for conclusions, and mostly vendors have to more focused on security, not providing default credentials at all, because as you can see, 20% of the professional users could use it with it. So maybe the default is something which should be turned off. Thank you.
Any questions to Attila? Hi. Have you tried cleaning up the devices so after you see that you can also hack them, removing the infection?
No, because yeah, it's a very tricky one to modify the device. I think to test it and get information about publicly available devices, not using default credential, but maybe the anonymous user is something like open. For example, if you have an IP address and just open with a browser, you use the anonymous credential, which may be not problematic. So you can get the list about the files on the device, but make modification on the device, it's kind of tricky. I think it could be harm. You can alert the owner of them. There are a couple of certs which already feed it with this data, and they try to reach the users of the IP addresses.
Hi, Adrian speaking. Well, thanks for the talk. How do the manufacturers of the devices, in particular Seagate, for instance, or LaCie, react on, let's say, their design flows? Did you approach them, and do they respond to it?
To tell the truth, not directly, but usually they try to fix it, but it takes time to.
Well, I would guess it might be a learning curve for them as well. So for the software vendors, it might be, let's say, common sense, but for the producers, I don't know whether they are already, let's say, into this stage of handling, let's say, these flaws in a well, strategic or, let's say, continuous manner.
Yeah, I think to create a very sophisticated way to manage the users, sometimes it's too professional for home users. I think in many cases they just use the easiest way, putting things together, and use the simplest, the easiest way to bring it along, bring it alive, and create something which is quite fancy and just working, and not care about how it could be abused.
Did you see any FTP servers which allow uploading files but not allowing access to them by anybody but their owner? Thank you.
So, allowed to upload the file, but not allowed to download. There are many servers, I think maybe polyports or something, which lets you write the disk, but don't let you to delete the content of it. So you don't have the full write access. You can create stuff on them, but it's a very just a couple of person. Which works in this way.
All right, if no further questions, let's give Attila a big hand.
Thank you.